Hey everybody, so Dark and Darker, let's talk about that in another video. So to catch everybody up to date, Dark and Darker was taken off Steam after their developer was sued by Nexon. The lawsuit has since been dismissed and Dark and Darker is back on Steam. This was a beloved game that many people were hoping was going to come back. After it came back, it reached overwhelmingly negative reviews. This was because they launched it as a free-to-play game, and it was not really a free-to-play game at all. In fact, it was basically a free-to-trial. It was more of a demo. And as a loot extraction game, that's what Dark and Darker is. It's a medieval D&D themed loot extractor. You have swords, spells, shields, armor, stuff like that. You fight to loot the dungeon. Potentially you can fight other players, but it's not required. And you try to get your loot out of the dungeon. That's the general idea. Unfortunately, there was absolutely no way to use your loot in the free-to-play model, so it was not really a free-to-play game at all. Nexon essentially issued a statement about this and made several changes to their games, and I'm going to go through all of that right now. So the first thing I want to discuss is what was so bad about the game's free-to-play nature. Now, in this video, as all my videos where I kind of just talk, this is me and I'm just staring at a camera. I don't actually have a script or anything in front of me. I actually have the statement from the developers in front of me. Iron Mace, I believe, is their name. But I'm going to double check that just to make sure I'm getting it right. Yes, Iron Mace. Okay. So I don't have a script or anything like that. So feel free to use me like as a podcast or put me on your second monitor, things like that. I like saying that because that actually does increase viewer retention. A lot of people seem to watch my videos and they think, well, this video isn't very edited at all. There's not a lot going. Okay, so I take footage of me playing the game, and then I just generally record me talking, and then I put me talking over the footage, so you guys have something to look at. That's about it. I don't, so I I generally I just like talking about video games and stuff like that. So that's what this is. It could either be me doing nothing or it could be me anyway. Let's move on past that. We're going to be talking about all of this. So I did a video recently and I was talking about Dark and Darker, and I said I did not have a very high opinion on this game and I thought it was going to fail. The developers since then, again, they've issued a statement and they've made significant changes to their game. Let's talk about why. First of all, to catch everybody up to date, why was this game not considered to be very much a free-to-play friendly game, and why were many people very frustrated? So first off, free-to-play players cannot do the following. They cannot have more than one character slot. Now I say that first because this is an issue that is still in the game and is absolutely no end in sight. To be blunt, to be clear, nobody has ever been so annoyed by a free-to-play game that they decide to give money to the developers. Many people have enjoyed a free-to-play game and then they decide to give the developers money because they enjoyed the game. The restriction to one character slot is absolutely moronic and absolutely needs to go, and it's not being addressed by anything so far. There are 9 classes in the game, and you need to delete your character. You need to delete your character to create a new class, to try a new class. That means losing all your progress on leveling, losing all your progress on gold, losing all your progress on loot. That is absolutely moronic. Other problems with the game, not really related to free-to-play, but just generally why people might be annoyed, is the lack of an auto sort button, the lack of a sell all button, and things like that. It can just be a generally frustrating game, but we're going to talk about why the free-to-play. Second is an extraction shooter game. It's not a shooter, it's more of a D&D themed game. You try to fight other people, you try to extract, blah, blah, blah. You could not actually have any game mode as a free-to-play player where you could actually use the loot that you extracted with, which in an extraction shooter, not being able to lose the loot that you extract with, boy, that really does seem quite stupid. The developers came out and they gave their reasoning for all that, and that's what I'm going to talk about right now. So free-to-play players, let's talk about you guys. Okay, I'm not going to read their entire thing, but I do want to read this little bit right here. Basically, despite our intentions, we failed in anticipating the expectation that new players would have when approaching our game. We did not intend to deceive our players, and we now realize that the current normal high roller bifurcation is not well designed for free-to-play players. We built a full loot extraction game and then forced upon a large contingent of the player base the inability to utilize their hard-earned loot without any workarounds. We now understand the absurdity of that situation and are looking to make amends. So yes, they do. When they put out this statement, they did look 100%. They realized, wait a minute, guys, there's no actual way for free-to-play players to use the loot in a loot extraction game. That's quite stupid, and that doesn't make any sense, actually. So then what have they decided to do to try to fix this issue? And, you know, again, has this changed my opinion on the game, and is this now a better game for it? So looking into some of the changes they've done. This isn't actually related to this. This is a totally different issue, but this had significantly improved the quality of the game. Druid has received an across-the-board nerf. Now, why does that make the game better? Druid was so catastrophically overpowered and went into so many trio compositions just being permakite. You actually noticed in my other video, I talked about the whole naked ranger, the naked druid, the naked wizard issue, where you just take off all your armor to maximize movement speed and run away. A cornerstone of that, although not the entire issue, but a cornerstone of that issue was, of course, the druid. The druid with a point-and-click 3-second route with a spammable summon that could harass you was extraordinarily overpowered. The druid has since received an across-the-board nerf to literally everything they do, I think. Their route is gone. It's gone from a 3-second route to a 1-second route. And I'm reading here. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21 different changes to druid. All of which, but I think 2 here, are nerfs. In other words, boy, a lot of the very frustrating gameplay that I think turned a lot of people off to the game, this single-handedly fixes it. I'm just mentioning it right now because in my other video, I talked about how basically everyone was just running away and everyone was kiting. Yeah, now that's not to say people aren't running druid. There's still certainly a lot of druids still in the game, a lot of them. But it is to say that a lot of the issue with druids has since been, at the very least, toned down significantly, and I have been able to enjoy trios without every single battle being against a double druid ranger or double druid wizard or that sort of stuff. You know, just being permanently kited forever with no actual hope of getting in, just being permanently zoned out. That has nothing to do with the free-to-play issue. That has nothing to do with it's just a huge game balance issue. If you're making a medieval melee themed loot extraction game, the dominant premier strategy should not be ever to permanently play at range and kite people out while running away faster than them. Okay, now let's move on. Okay. Since then, since they said, how do we address the free-to-play issue? How do we address this game as a whole? What have they done to improve the game? Okay, I'm gonna now read through this list of changes. These are all fixes with the game, blah, 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 blah. To allow all players to experience a full loot extraction experience, we will begin testing an updated normal mode. Now, this mode is now accessible. Well, it's always been accessible by all free-to-play players, but now everyone can now experience this new normal mode. The gear cap for normal mode dungeons has been increased from common to legendary grade goods. You can now take up to legendary grade goods into the normal game mode. Now, I'm going to keep my issues with this system until the end. I'm just going to explain it all for everybody right now. Okay. Keep in mind that the gear cap can and will be adjusted in real time to a rarity that best suits normal dungeons. So, the developers, I do believe legendaries, there has been some misconceptions. I haven't gotten a good definite answer because I don't actually have any legendaries myself, but I do believe legendaries have since been banned from this game mode as well, but I don't have a personal confirmation on that. So I did hear that legendaries were going to be banned or were banned or you couldn't use them. I don't know. Gear score matchmaking is enabled for normal mode dungeons. Okay. Gear score matchmaking is enabled for normal mode dungeons. Normal mode dungeons are now split into 2 matching pools. The default matching pool is set at a maximum gear score of 25. Now, for people that don't play the game or might not pay attention that much to the game, 25 gear score is really, really, really low. That means you basically are ungeared or in mostly grays. Even using more than one magic item will pretty much immediately raise you over the gear score of 25. In other words, people that are doing fresh runs just using the default loot will basically only play against other people who are doing fresh runs with only the default loot. This is basically the newbie island. This is what the game mode was previously, effectively, in that if you want to play this loot extraction game and you only want to use the gear that you find on the map, but you do want a decent starting experience, or you want to pull in the perfect grays, that's the lowest possible quality. If you want to pull in the perfect grays of the gear set that you like, then you can play on this game mode. This game mode is for you, and you don't need to play with people using, rare items. You don't need to play with people playing with any sort of magical modifiers or anything like that. This game mode remains. You can continue to play like this, not have to pull in any gear that you extract or anything like that. You can just use this as a way to generate money and fight other people who are just trying to generate money or are very new to the game. Okay. This closely matches previous normal game experience where players were restricted to common gear. Players or teams with anyone having a gear score above 25 are placed in a more difficult normal matching pool. Now, gear score matchmaking, I'm not entirely sure what that means. I did do a lot of games today, which you're probably seeing in front of you, where I started with basically full greens and a couple blues, and I continued to run and I continued to buy more items on the marketplace, and I continued to find more items until I was basically using full blues and purples, so rares and epics. I basically had a full set of rares and epics, and I did notice I was still finding a lot of gray players with me, people who maybe were using, some magic items, some blue items, enough to pull them above the cap. Not, completely new players, people that might still have played and known what they were doing, but definitely players who were not on par with me. So I don't exactly know what gear score matchmaking is. I don't know what that really means. But I did notice as my gear got better and better and better that there were some people in our games. We did see a couple people that died. We saw a bard with full blues and purples who was dead, with his teammates who were full blues and purples who were dead. And then, we did see there was a game where a lot of the game that had been assembled was mostly people in blues and purples. But since we saw that game, we didn't really get any other games like that. Now, that might be because we just happened to not run across any of the other teams running blues and purples. But at the very least, when I was in full blues and purples, the teams we were killing were mostly whites, greens, and some blues. So very rarely did we find anyone also matching our gear quality. Okay. Updated the gear score for poor and common items to have a lower gear score. So if you're poor and common, you have a lower gear score. That keeps you below the 25 threshold. So that's, basically that. Okay, it's not really that important. I don't think it even mattered before. Updated the gear score from poor and common items to no longer provide any gear score. Oh, okay. I didn't actually notice they listed that twice. Poor and common items have a lower gear score, and also it appears that gear score is 0. So poor and common items will straight up have a gear score of 0, meaning you have up to 25 gear score allowed in magic items, which is, again, that's like 1 to 2. I didn't check entirely, but it's like 1 to 2. Now, this is another change here, which, while not really dealing with the free-to-play, much like the Druid nerf, massively improves the quality of the game. Healing potions and bandages provided by the Squire now have a quantity of 2. Now, that's a fresh roll or something you can get every game. Every game you play, instead of having 1 health potion and 1 bandage, you now get 2. That includes people who even extracted successfully and just want to refresh and get their bandages and their health potions back. That is I promise you, that is a very, very large increase to the quality of the game. It might not seem like it, but yes, having double the healing for free, just given to every player, is a massive increase to the quality of the game. That's no exaggeration whatsoever. You might have noticed in some of my videos when you have to sit down and rest to heal up, that can take a very, 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 very long time. Forcing every player to constantly buy bandages, constantly buy healing potions every single time while it might not seem like that much, but it did add up to the amount of gold you would have to spend potentially just to play a non-healing trio or non-healing duo or non-healing solo run. And being able to heal at least some amount more than practically zero. I mean, it's literally double the healing items you get for free. That is very, very big. High Roller Dungeon is available as soon as you reach legendary status. Okay. It used to be that even once you put your $30 into the game, you had 72 hours of lockout before you were even allowed to play on the High Roller Dungeons. Which is to say that, you know, that was quite stupid, and I don't really know why that was added, because, like, once they have your money, that's a bad deal. Okay, trade must be available 72 hours after legendary status is activated. So you can still not trade until 72 hours after you do legendary status. Okay, so then with all this said, what's the difference between a free-to-play player and a player who is, you know, who is given in the $30? Okay, one, you're allowed to access the marketplace and trade items for gold. Now that is a very large advantage and can be seen as pay to win. And I would agree there is a certain amount of credit to that. To be fair, some of the items you can find on the marketplace, because people are just tossing them up there, they're very cheap. You can get a pretty decent set of blue armor, depending on what armor you get. But if you don't care that much about the modifiers and you're just looking at the increased base stats, a set of blue armor can cost as little as 500 gold. It's not really that much. The alternative that free-to-play players have is when you die in a dungeon and nobody has looted your gear, there is a gear retrieval system from the Goblin Merchant. You can pay gold and retrieve gear so long as nobody else has looted it. That's about the other gold sink that free-to-play players have. But it is to say that the paid players definitely have a large significant advantage. Free-to-play players, of course, as I mentioned earlier, they're limited to one character instead of 9, and that is... It honestly just makes the game significantly less fun, and that truly needs to be removed. At the very least, you need to allow free-to-play players to have 3, 4, maybe even 5 character slots. Even if you don't want to allow them to have one of each class, locking them to one is just stupid. It's stupid, it's detrimental, and it's idiotic. I've literally never in my life seen a free-to-play game annoy players so much and make the game unfun to the point where they'll give them money. No one has ever said, boy, they're really pissing me off with this one. Time to give them $30. Okay, the last and most important thing, and this is actually kind of a big deal, what is available to you if you are a paid player is High Roller. What is High Roller? You're allowed to use any gear you want, put in $100, sorry, $100, not $100, 100 gold, and for 100 gold entrance fee, you get harder versions of all the maps. The maps are a good chunk harder and give you a good chunk more loot, much higher quality loot, in fact, but in return, well, you know, any gear can be available. So you might fight Booty Blaster 9000 in full legendary Giga gear, who just runs up and one-shots you while running around at the speed of the Flash. So, you know, there's trade-offs here. Which is to say that, in my opinion, I don't think High Roller is good at all, and I don't think that it actually is worth paying $30 for. Now, the other things, yes, I do think having more than one character slot is basically required to enjoy this game. I do think the marketplace, while not being required to enjoy the game, definitely is a very large positive, because being able to actually, if I really like Berdaches or double axes, being able to just buy a blue version of it if I died horribly, and being able to use my gold to just be like, look, I'm just going to go get a blue of this weapon. This weapon, I enjoyed this weapon a lot, and I'd much prefer to have this weapon to enjoy the game. I can guarantee that at the very least, I can do some good extractions, get some gold, and buy a good version of it, right? The problem, what's the way to put it? I think then the big advantage of being a paid player is really it's accessing the marketplace and having all your character slots. High roller is terrible. Now let's talk about the new normal game mode then and my issues with it. Okay, so can you enjoy the new normal game mode as a free player? Yes, 100%. It is significantly better, and the quality of the game has gone up immeasurably. I have now been able to put in. I don't know how long I streamed this game for just now. I put in time into the game to experience it. I put in 12 hours into the game, and to be honest, after playing it for 12 straight hours, the only singular reason I stopped was so that I could take the time to make this video, so I would have a video before I went to sleep. Which is to say, I very, very much enjoyed the game, significantly more at this point. At this point, this game is significantly better in every way imaginable. Being able to actually use my loot, the entire game makes sense now. The entire game is better now. The entire game plays like it should now. If I want to do low rolls, if I've gotten blown out and I lost all my gear, which I did twice. By the way, I got blown out. I lost all my best gear being a dumbass. We won every single PvP encounter handedly. Like it was a complete blowout. We won. You know how I died? I died because one of my teammates died in hell, and for some reason I was just standing around helping him like get back his gear rather than just walking out of hell, and I just died to the damage over time that happens at the end of the round. It didn't even occur to me just walk away. Like what was I was just watching him. I was just watching him like get his loot back, right? Like he was gonna die. There's nothing we could do. There's just not enough time left. He was gonna die and lose his loot, right? But I just stood there with my best loot, with my best in slot epic shield. I just died because it didn't even occur to me. Just leave him. Just step into the portal. The portal was 2 feet behind me. But anyway, I died, lost all my gear. Died a second time, lost all my backup gear, ended up just doing some pauper runs, ended up just doing some gray runs. And it's fun. The game is legitimately, significantly more interesting and more fun. Now, I do believe, here's the thing. You do need to be in a trio. You need to be in a trio that has, let's say, what's the way to put it? You need to be in a trio that plays like you want to play. Do you want to get lots of loot? Do you want to extract? Then you should play with people who want to extract. Do you want to just run it down PvP? Then, yeah, you probably want to play with people who want to run it down PvP. Syncing up with the people you play with will have a more pleasurable experience. It seems kind of obvious, but, you know, to some people, what is obvious and what is not obvious can tend to differ a lot. At any rate, where was I even going with this? Yeah, I would say my opinion on the game is that the game is significantly improved. Significantly. I don't really even mind the lack of a circle because now I think to myself, I really want to stay alive to continue to have my gear. I don't really mind the low timer because now I start to think to myself, once you actually have gear with some modifiers on it, once you have gear that allows you to loot faster, once you have some gear that allows you to PvE a bit better, yeah, 15 minutes feels about a good amount of time. It's kind of shockingly crazy how much. This is what I was trying to talk about with my other video. Changing a few core aspects of the game can massively impact the game itself. Like, if you change some core aspects of any game, the entire game can be significantly more fun or significantly less fun. In this case, the game becomes significantly more fun. It starts clicking. It starts feeling better for everyone to play. I don't really know a better way to put it. So the actual playing of the game feels better. Again, I played it for 12 hours, and I can firmly say that I do think that this game is significantly better. So I keep sniffing. I got phlegm. At any rate, so everything clicks and it just works better. I don't know. I could talk about this for a while, but now let's talk about the downsides. Let's talk about potential problems. The first time I queued up, and I was expecting this to happen, Booty Blaster 9000 was in my game. I just had a few greens and I think a blue, and Mr. Booty Blaster 9000, I saw him on the kill feed. He killed like 10 players in a row. They were doing Barbarian and 2 supports. I didn't really catch their names. It came at us a little quickly. and Mr. Booty Blaster 9000 wiped out the entire lobby. And I believe after that, legendaries then got banned from the game mode. But again, it's kind of hard to get any confirmation on these things because of how they're doing things. They're playing it very close to the chest. They're not putting up like official announcements, but I haven't seen anyone with a legendary in the game mode after that. So I do believe legendary items just instantly got banned. But again, I could be wrong. I just haven't seen it after that, and someone told me that they got banned. So like my personal confirmation is that I hadn't seen anyone do that again. I hadn't seen the 10 kill blowout of a game since. I haven't seen anyone with a legendary item. I have not seen the color orange since then. I have actually gone colorblind slightly as I can no longer see orange. Okay, but there will likely be potential problems as the system goes on. And I mentioned this with the gear score I was talking about earlier. Once you get in full blues and purples, it's not to say that the free-to-play players can't beat you, but it is to say, I would say, previously there were certain stats you could get on items, plus all stats, or I think after that they added true damage on items for some reason. Armor itself has been buffed a lot. Plus all stats has been removed, and I hope it stays removed. People have mentioned that they've added it, removed it, added it, removed it. It's a very blatantly overpowered stat and makes all gear worth way too much. To be clear to the people watching Cinevelers, if you have +2 to all stats, that improves literally everything your character does, right? You attack faster, you have more damage, you have more HP, you move quicker, everything, right? And the problem with plus all stats in a game like this is this means that people with epic gear, and if they get +2 all stats on all their epic gear, they can end up being so much more powerful than any other player that you really can't compete anymore. Now, gear right now does seem to be weaker than it was in the past, but I also haven't rolled up a full perfect gear set to really compare. What this is going to is that maybe in the future we will see people in full purple gear, and the purple gear, full best in slot perfect gear, those people might be in this game mode just beating the crap out of everyone. For now, I have seen some people with their blues and their purples dying, and once they're dead, you have to go back and you have to get them all. You could go to the auction house and you could buy them back, but that'll take time too. I don't believe, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but my gut feeling now, doing my head math, I don't believe purple gear can make you so much more powerful that you can't get dropped on or attacked by people with lesser gear and killed. I do believe 2 squads, if you end up in a bad situation where you attack a squad and a second squad happens to hit you, I think in that situation, purple gear people are dead. Whereas in the past, purple gear people could definitely 2v1 2 different squads and win. But this is all going to say the fact that with full best in slot purple gear, that maybe these people start queuing up for this game mode, getting up against people with mostly whites and some greens and completely blowing them out. That's all I'm trying to say. So that does seem to be an issue. This has been an issue with the game in the past, where people will get bored, just use all their accrued gold, use all their accrued wealth, and just continuously buy the best items and then go just gank the shit out of people in the normal game mode. That's why, by the way, the normal game mode was completely restricted to white items to begin with. Now, effectively, they added 2 queues. The normal queue, which is, you're only using gray items, and the other queue, which is you're using any amount of magic items, really. But the problem is, any amount of magic items, that can mean you're in full greens, and you geared up your character a little bit, and you're okay. Those people will be fighting against the people like me who, when I'm, I did die with it, so I don't have it anymore, but I was full blues, some purples. I was doing very good. I was easily clearing hell over and over again, getting better and better loot each time. But that's, I guess, what makes the game fun, and that's kind of the trade-off they have to put. And this is what I need to talk about more. The problem was with the original system for the game was trying to protect players so hard from being destroyed and ganked by people with better gear. They were trying to protect people so hard that they were stopping them from having any fun. It was basically like coddling the player base into the ground. They were coddling the player base to death. They put a blanket over them to keep them safe and strangled them. Because at the end of the day, keeping my gear, deciding what's the best gear I want to put onto my character, right? Do I have blue gloves. If those blue gloves are really, really good, maybe I don't want to use them with all my best gear. Maybe I could use some of my best gear, but maybe I want to keep my super awesome weapon in my stash just in case I need to use it later on, right? Like maybe let's not use all my best gear at the same time. At either rate, slowly improving the quality of my stash, slowly improving the quality of my character, and eventually having a run where you just kind of get blown out. That's kind of the allure of extraction shooters. And I did get blown out. I lost my best in slot purple shield, which I'll always miss. I lost one of my favorite swords. I lost my really cool chest armor. I lost my cool pants. I lost a lot of gear that I'll miss forever. And yet, you know what? At the end of the day, I just enjoyed the game so much that I just went back and continued to play it. It's pretty rare for a game to be like that. But would I continue to enjoy the game if I was getting blown out? If I was trying to gear up my character and I was getting continuously blown out by other people, you know, PvPing and destroying everyone, I would probably not enjoy the game if that was happening, is what I'm trying to say. So, you know, it's a struggle. Let's put it that way. It's a struggle. You can't smother the baby and murder it, because if you smother the baby and murder it, it's a dead baby. You don't want to make a dead baby, generally speaking, at any rate. But you also don't want the baby going free on top of an apartment and falling to its death. So you have to keep the baby safe, but at the same time, you can't smother it, and that's kind of the difficulty. This analogy is perfect, by the way. The baby analogy is absolutely perfect in this situation. At either rate, as for now, as for the 12 hours I played, I would say that I very much actually did enjoy my time. I think the game played significantly better. I enjoyed it significantly more. I would say I lost a lot of my loot initially before I gently encouraged, let's say, I wore a headset all day. Kind of hurts the top of my head sometimes, right? I would say I gently encouraged my team to not engage in every single PvP discourse. Let's put it that way. That if you engage in every single enemy you fight, not only will they also have a team. No, that one player is not solo. He actually does have a team. But maybe, you know, 50-50ing a PvP encounter every single match isn't the best way to play it out. Because if you keep 50-50ing, you're going to end up slowly losing all the gear that you've accrued. And maybe in a loot extraction shooter, sometimes take a good fight if it comes to you, but you know, let's also remember we're trying to extract with loot in our loot extractor. Where am I going with all this? I'm going to say that the game has gone from me saying basically don't play it. It kind of just sucks and has no point. And really, why would you ever play a game like this? To now I would say the game is a fun game with some flawed combat mechanics that I might work on. I definitely think fighters I played all fighter this time. I said I was not enjoying barbarians. I just swapped my class and I'm playing a fighter. So the footage you're seeing is probably me playing a fighter, right? I think fighter abilities are almost across the board terrible. Second wind is good. Shield bash is trash. Their sprint is trash. The one ability that I swapped to that I ended up forgetting to use every single time that increases your attack speed, that one seems to be okay, but it's not really exciting. You just click button and then you attack quicker for a little bit, right? Like it's not really blowing my mind, right? And that's really all I can say. I do think that the game is worth playing now, and if you're into this sort of game, definitely I would say it went from 2 thumbs down from me, just don't even bother to play it, to actually I think this game is quite good right now. It's not a perfect game, and it definitely has a hard road ahead of it, trying to adjust and balance all these different issues that it could be having. But yeah, I would say this game, in my opinion, it went from a solid like 4 out of 10, or it's like, yeah, I mean, I guess, to I would say it's like a 7 out of 10 right now, possibly an 8 out of 10. It's, I mean, when I say these scores, by the way, they're for you guys. I don't really put much thought into it. I just kind of say whatever number comes to my head. So don't expect any consistency or logic to this, okay? I'm just trying to spitball it for you guys. It's a pretty good game right now with some flaws that in the current state and the way it's going, if they don't carefully guard their systems, if they don't carefully guard against, I'm going to call them griefers, people that sit in high-end loot and just constantly queue in to destroy people. I'd call them a form of griefers, even though they're playing the game as it's intended, but you know what I mean. I would say if they're not on their guard and protecting against these sort of people, that they could very much end up with a dead baby type of game where no one really wants to play it anymore because it's just not really that fun to play. And, you know, but for now, I would say it's a pretty good game. Get in now before everyone's got full gear and is wiping you. That's definitely the way I would put it. So, yeah. That's it for me for this video. Give me your thoughts. You know, what do you think? Do you think that this is a massive improvement? Do you think that they have ruined the game potentially? Or do you think, you know, how have you been playing for the rest of today and potentially tomorrow? Do you think that the game is significantly better or worse now? But, yep, that's all I got. Thank you all for watching. Thank everybody for being there. Thank everybody. And as always, I hope you all have a great rest of your day.